you guys? It's Sam Fischer, typically your host of the Unknown Pro podcast, but today, as promised, we've got a special episode where I'm the guest, and we've got a special host today, Jade Hewitt.
Hello, America.
How does it feel to be a guest and then now be the host?
You know, it feels very full circle, to be honest. I'm honored to be here in your beautiful home.
Here we are up in my house, so I'm just saying. So I guess take it away.
Yeah, so I think this episode deserves a little bit of quick context before we start. So what we're going to dive into today is, you could call it a deep dive. This isn't quite as lighthearted and giggle fest as we typically normally are. So in the world that we're in of softball and just sports in general, if people either follow you or they follow softball, they probably know or think, hey, she's really funny. She's on Twitter, she's witty, she's funny. You are the lightheartedness comedian in the room, which is fun and dandy, but I feel like can also sometimes be a little tough because you're always kind of expected to be the funny one or take hard situations and make them funny. So, I know the story of what we're going into today, but just so everybody else knows, this is just kind of another side to Sam that I think we normally don't see, which is why this story's great. So why don't you give us some background as to this story that you're about to tell us?
I will. First and foremost, great context. I thought that was really beautiful, very well put. Mm-hmm. I think one thing for me is that I think people feel that they know a lot about me because I'm very vocal about how I feel about sport.
Yeah.
McDonald's, Harry Potter, books. But that's it. I don't think that I've ever told anybody what we're about to talk about.
Yeah.
So the background of this obviously has to do with softball, and it's an experience that kind of not molded me, but helped with the mold and some of the hard stuff that I feel like I've gone through or feel or deal with came from what we're about to talk about. So background, I joined a travel ball team when I was 13. I had the head coach of this team was great. He was very hardcore, kind of as much hard work and work ethic that my parents had instilled in me, he kind of added to it. Very much driven, motivated, wanted to make us better kind of guy. And I fell in love with this team immediately. And I was on the team for 4 years. Literally my whole chunk of my 13 to 17, I was on this team.
Which is where the bulk, when I think about my travel experience, those are the years I think about.
Absolutely.
Where it's the best friends that you make, the times
Yes.
you have, that's really where the meat of growing as an athlete, I feel really
Absolutely.
is. Because you're old enough to know what you're doing and remember, when I was 8, I don't know. But when I was 15, I'm yeah, we did this.
Yes.
You remember things.
Yes, and I was kind of getting to the point in my playing career that I was kind of gelling. I was figuring things out. I was growing, which helped a lot. I was getting taller, that helped. But I was really excelling more and more in the sport, and this is where a lot of my goals developed, a lot of my dreams developed, that kind of thing. So that's kind of a little bit of the start into it. But what this story is about is not so much the greatness of where it started, but the not so greatness of where it ended. So like I said, I was on this team for 4 years. This coach was my BFF, man. He, we were close. We did extra workouts together. I was friends with his daughter, so we'd have sleepovers and then we'd work out at the house and all that kind of stuff. So things started to go a little bit weird that last year, where college recruiting kind of was back when I was in high school, and you as well. You didn't get recruited when you were 13.
It was different.
It was different. You were in the middle of high school or so.
It was the junior year.
Yeah.
Senior year.
And so once that kind of started happening when we were juniors going into that year, it was kind of I had been getting some collegiate attention, recruiting attention, and I think because this is only guesswork. The way that things started to happen, I think the pressure of being a coach and a dad didn't super help the situation, but the last year on this team was a lot of not so nice things being said, a lot of just not good enough kind of stuff, So I was eventually cut from this team after nationals. We were in South Dakota, and I got this email. The whole team got this email, essentially cutting me from the team.
Now, okay, wait. So let's pause. As far as like attitude, playing time, skill level, with any of those three, was it like, okay, like if you were like, you know what, I never played, like I wasn't good, or my attitude was really bad, or whatever, like none of those things fit the bill for why you were
and I'm a very realistic person about my abilities and about my personality, so the Sam that people know today is the Sam, like I've been this way since I was in the womb. So
not to be dramatic,
but my mom can be a witness for this. So I'm thinking I could just read the email because I think it's really important for people to know that words are important.
Yeah.
Especially when you're turning 17 and you already don't know anything about your life.
Right.
Okay, it's kind of long.
Like the most impressionable age.
Like, who am I already?
When it comes to like your future and what you want to do in life, but yeah.
Okay, so here's this. We had just lost, and because of the way that everything was going, my family and I had already decided we're gonna see this commitment through. We're gonna finish the year at nationals, and we're gonna go to a new team after this because it was just that point where I was like, I'm very unhappy and I'm like upset and like I leave practice and I'm not happy kind of thing. So okay. This coach starts off, I'm very sorry that we did not win the championship this week. I take full responsibility. We got 9th. We did pretty good. I take full responsibility and I believe that we should have won it without question. I have no excuses. I did not get the job done. I appreciate everyone's support and all your beliefs throughout our season. I hope that the 2008 team will get it done next year. Cue how long ago this was.
We're old. Gray hair, I see.
It might be. I do want to update you right away about a big, all caps, change in our program because I have already heard rumors and I do not want the story to be told the wrong way. Before I write this though, I do want to remind you that I'm just a dad and I'm not a professional travel ball coach, so here you go.
Yep.
Sam Fischer will no longer be welcome in the organization. It's my opinion that Sam's attitude is no longer a positive influence on the team. In my opinion, her tears, tantrums, manipulating, and poor attitude were a big contribution toward this club losing a championship this week, and I am no longer able to stand by and watch this happen. Many of you made comments to me today that you felt that she purposely threw some crucial plays due to her attitude. In retrospect, I have to agree with you. I'm sorry that I waited so long to cut her from the team. I hope you understand that I do try as long as I can with all the kids. I do believe that the real purpose of this program is to turn out leaders and great citizens, parentheses, no matter how good your talent is at softball. At this point, I simply cannot justify going on with Sam with all the other players and families working so hard to make this program successful. I hope you understand that this decision is a very difficult one for me as Sam has been with the program from the start. However, I would rather not coach anymore if I have to deal with attitudes like Sam Fischer. So there you go. Thanks again for all your support. I'm sorry I was unable to bring home another championship this year. I look forward to our personal meetings tomorrow. I'll be calling you all early to get an appointment. Thanks. You want to know the best?
I'm uncomfortable. I mean, that's...
Yeah, it was the worst
and that went to the whole...
Everyone.
Parents.
Everyone.
The whole...
Yeah. And then he called my college coach the next day, and he told him not to take me at school, at OMU. And Gary was like, I'm going to take her. Like, he tried to get me, to not have my scholarship or whatever anymore.
So, here's the thing.
Hit me.
I feel like that email it's not even like it's super harsh. I mean, like in every way. Even if that was like a conversation that was just had like in the parking lot after the game, like that's still harsh, much less to write it, put it in an email, and then send it to everybody.
Yeah, everyone.
I mean,
parents, kids, everyone. I walked down, we were all in a hotel, the whole team, and I remember coming downstairs, and my best friend Colleen was like, hey, because we didn't have laptops.
No.
So we were at the
down to the
business center of the hotel, and Colleen just look and had this email up on the screen, and I sat there and I read it, and I remember this moment so distinctly because I just remember it was when I just went.
Anyway, time out for listeners. Are you still at the tournament?
Yeah, this was the night we lost.
Okay.
So yeah, we're still there. And here's the thing, like, I think if you tell a kid who has a bad attitude that they have a bad attitude, they're not going to be surprised or confused. I was shook. You didn't say shook in 2007,
Nothing.
but looking back on it, I'm like, oh my, the first thing I thought, because I placed so much value in what this guy said.
Yeah.
So, still to this day, it's real twisted.
Right.
Still to this day, but I placed so much value in what he had to say about me and what he, his input, that I'm like, I'm a bad kid. I'm a troubled kid. I'm obviously like, I have a bad attitude.
Well, I mean, there's a lot of other things other than just a bad attitude that.
Yeah, I don't cry. The tears part where I'm like, that's
tears,
wrong.
Negativity, throwing a game.
Yeah, like I.
Who even thinks about who even puts two and two together to throw a game?
Like, I don't have to try to miss a ball. Like, sometimes it just happens.
Like, Jesus, sorry, I missed the backhand, but it wasn't intentional.
Yeah. No, it was very much like, oh my God, is this who I am? And I just remember, like, from then, like, I'm a very happy-go-lucky person.
Right.
Like, I enjoy life. I enjoy softball. I'm 16, turning 17 at this point, and I had dedicated so much of my life at that point already to softball that I'm like, I'm out here giving 100% every day. I dedicate my off time. Like, I do extra work. I eat, sleep, breathe softball.
Right.
Back then, even now, but I still majorly messed up.
Yeah.
And I didn't understand until later when I went to therapy that this had nothing to do with me. But when you're 16, you think, I would rather not coach anymore if I have to deal with attitudes like Sam Fischer. That was the one where I was like, this sucks.
Yeah.
That sucked.
You have like no way of like coping or dealing with that
No.
as a 17-year-old. The
No.
only thing to do is be like, it's all me, it's my fault.
Well, I started after that, like I said, being happy-go-lucky and being positive and being, all the things that I like to think and claim that I am. I started to have these little dark spells of like, why am I so mad?
Yeah.
There were times where like, there were times where I was like, I'd rather be by myself, because you think about like relationships, like there's people in your life that you're like, they have the potential to hurt me.
Yeah.
Like we could break up, or like, friends can have falling outs. This was the person that was never supposed to hurt me.
Right.
Was like, so that's why I think it was like, bro, I've been through breakups where I'm like, all right. Oh,
yeah.
We were together for 4 years? That's fine. Bye. But this was the absolute end of the world.
Well, too, because your coach in any situation is in a quote position of power over you, and they're obviously older and wiser and should know how to handle situations or manipulate situations. So it's not like your best friend betrayed you. It's someone who is in the position of power for a reason. Yeah. And when it comes from that person, it's like how do you even recover from that as a 17-year-old?
You don't. Yeah. You go to therapy when you're 24.
Right. So a long time afterwards, for you to still deal with that from 17 to 24, to only hit therapy how many years later? Was it 7 years?
7 years later.
7 years later, I mean.
I'm like, something's wrong.
Yeah.
That's what I thought. I didn't know, because I used the anger. I used all of that to work out. I used it to go and hit. I used it to go. It was almost as if the fuel of feeling like I wasn't good enough made me better. So I'm still trying to spin it positively. Like this sucked. This sucked. Even reading now, like I still have this in my phone. Yeah. Like it makes me emotional. Like I feel like I have a little like pain in my throat because it's like hard to, it's hard to read that. It's like I was, like you said, I was with the program from the start. Every day of my life was dedicated to this team and him. Mm-hmm. And there were points where like once I graduated college and people were like, man, like that was probably the worst thing ever, getting cut from Team USA. I'm like, that was a walk in the park. Or I would get cut 10 times before going through this again.
Oh, absolutely, yeah.
But I actually saw him the next year, like senior year had started and we had a high school tournament, and I saw him out there, and if I didn't go and talk to him, I wasn't going to be able to focus on playing. Yeah. And I went up to him and I was like, hey, it's me. Remember me? Do you remember? The trauma, it's fine. And we chatted, and he, like, I wasn't going to bring anything up because I'm 17 and I don't, like, I'd like to think I was mature, but
yeah, but you're 17.
And he said, I did what I did for you. Like I did it so that you could, because you were you were, developing past the team in a way. Like basically I had like Free Willy, like go be free kind of thing.
Like you were too good?
Like I was developing past what he could coach or what the team, like.
So was his method to like break you down into shambles?
Yeah, it was like essentially like, I know you don't like, like
Chutes and ladders, just go right back to the beginning.
Yeah, where it's like telling the dog that you hate it so that it runs away from you.
Right.
So it's like, go be free, this is for your own good, I hate you.
Yeah.
And I'm like, you could have just like had a conversation with me.
Right.
But that, and then I remember after USA, I don't remember if I talked to him after USA, I don't think I did, but it was after I'd been with USA for a couple of years, I reached out, like, I think about this all the time, still, like, I had so many good memories, this guy is a big chunk of the reason why I'm the player that I am, a very big chunk, and I would never take that away from him and from the work that we put in together, but I think it was 2014, I was like, you know what, let's go to lunch, because I felt like I, was at a point where I could kind of explain my side. I'd gotten a couple of tattoos, it's really edgy,
Because that whole time you're still yearning for answers.
Absolutely.
You're still you're longing to be able to put like a period at the end of the sentence,
like closure.
Yeah, wrap it up and have some closure.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah. So we had this lunch, and we were talking, and dude, he hates tattoos, and so this was my favorite thing. I was like, you know that I got tattoos because of what you did. I swear to God. Like, just keep swimming. You think that has anything to do with Finding Nemo?
I mean, a little bit, but like...
but like...
Yeah.
I started to, like, connect with things, and it was awful at the time that this happened, that I got cut. I was reading Harry Potter and the Order of the Phoenix. It was a dark time.
That's some dark places,
It was dark, and then, like, I was relating a lot of stuff that really mattered to me because of the pain that came with this. Like, relating it to things where it's, like, Sirius Black, loyal, like things like loyalty, like sticking with people through the good and the bad. I'm like, what am I telling myself? And so I told him, I was like, look, dude, like that's exactly how I said it. But I was like, you really hurt me. Like you really made me feel like I was nothing and like I was useless and like not good enough. And here's the thing, like I still made it to where I wanted to go.
Right.
But I felt like crap about myself a lot along the way.
Yeah.
Not that it takes away from any, like this is the thing about like mental health, where it's like, I have an amazing life. Like I have an amazing family. I have amazing friends. Like I get to play softball every day and even, going to college, but there were times where I felt guilty because sometimes I was not sad's the wrong word, but like mad.
Mm-hmm.
I was mad.
Yeah.
And like, it made me feel guilty because I'm like so happy.
Yeah.
It's so confusing.
Yeah.
It's so confusing.
Yeah.
I was at my dream school. I was, getting better in softball every year and, living my dream. And then there were times where I'd be like in my room at night and I'm like,
it's so messed up. I mean, it's just like a giant tangled web. I mean, I feel like what gets me is and just, I guess, knowing you and knowing like your character and, knowing like to the soul of that you're such a good person, and I imagine you're pretty similar in high school. You know what I mean? But
dorky.
But it's like you work so hard, you on and off the field to be a good person, be a leader, to like practice hard and all these kind of things.
Yeah.
And then something you can't control, somebody just swoops in and just attacks your character and everything that you've built for yourself and everything that the reputation that you've tried to put out there. And not only that, to then be like, hey, LMU, don't take her. Which shout out to
Gary.
Shout out to Gary for like seeing through that nonsense.
Yeah, and he called us and told us, and he said, look, this is what happened. I don't know what's going on, but like, I'm never like, this is it. Like we are, I signed my letter of intent like 2 months after that.
When all of this happened, did any part of you think, even for a second, like I don't want to play anymore. I don't want to play in college. Never. That
I think is the point that I really wanted to make, because there's so many points that can come out of this conversation. Number one, I hate talking about myself like this. Like this is making me so unbelievably uncomfortable, but it's important for so many reasons. And the first of the important reasons is that I see a lot, there every now and then there's this article about to the coach who made me hate the game,
Yes.
or to the coach who ruined it for me.
Yep.
And it goes around and goes around. Every
Yep.
time I see it, I read it, and it pisses me off.
Yep.
Because here's the thing: if somebody can ruin how you feel about the sport, I know, believe me, I have been at this lowest low, right? Like this was the lowest point of my life. Like nothing's even come close, and I never once said screw softball.
Yeah.
What it didn't ruin the love that I had for the game. It's like the worst. It ruined the love that I had for myself.
Right.
And my whole entire life, nothing has changed about the way that I feel about softball.
Yeah.
Going through, college, USA, getting cut, being picked as an alternate, like different things that have happened along the way that should make me feel bad.
Yeah.
Nothing has wavered how I feel about the sport. If anything, it just continues to grow. And if anything, softball was, other than my family, softball was the one constant that I had, that I could still go out and swing a bat. I could still go out and play catch and feel like this is me, this is myself,
But when you say that, what gets me too is the kids, the athletes out there who maybe don't have like a love for the game that's quite that strong,
right,
where something like this, or even something way toned down from this, is enough to kick them off the horse. And like, what a bummer, because
you never
like
know.
everything that you learned through sports, everything that sports taught you was just wiped away like with one email. Like, and it's so sad. And you think of all the kids out there who are in similar situations, or coaches who just don't understand the power of their words.
Oh yeah, and I see it a lot, being around coaching, being around young kids, doing camps, doing lessons and stuff. I see it all the time where I'm like, why are you being mean?
Yeah.
What's the point of being mean?
I think it's important to point out is that you you're coaching right now. So the perspective
my little
and everything.
10-year-olds, shout out.
So you're not saying this I'm hanging around the game or like whatever. Like you're actively coaching right now.
Yes.
So it's kind of like it really is full circle from where you started to kind of where you're at right now.
No, it really is, and I totally understand. Like, I will say, like, my attachment to the sport, I know, is kind of like over here, and there's other people in this category, but like for those who would just like really enjoy it or love it or whatever and aren't necessarily dedicating their life to it, I can see how stuff like this can make it to where they connect the sport with the events, or with the not so nice things that coaches have to say or parents have to say. But I just so strongly believe that this happening, this email, the year leading up to the email has absolutely nothing to do with the sport,
Yeah.
So
how do you has anyone ever asked you this? How do you feel like, had this not gone down, where do you think that you would have had the same path?
I think that I would have had the same path because of the love for the game and the love for practicing and working out. Like, I still would have gone to LMU. I still would have worked out the same way. I still would have practiced the same way. But I think that it would have been easier. It would have been like fueled by passion. Not that everything that I do isn't fueled by passion, but there's like a little bit like almost like I was running away from something, like I have to do this so that this doesn't catch up to me.
Yeah.
And that was the year that I got cut from Team USA, was the year that it all caught up with me. To where now I don't.
Funny how that worked out.
Like, thanks a lot, man. I know I did terrible at the trial, but she didn't have to make me like realize my issues so soon. But it was.
I don't mean to laugh.
It's hilarious. You should be laughing.
What year was this?
2013.
Okay.
Yeah, so this all happened in 2007. So yeah, I guess about 6 years later. Because now I didn't have a team, I wasn't playing, and all of a sudden I'm like, I'm still kind of unhappy. Like, what is this?
There's some unresolved issues.
Yeah,
here.
and then I called my girl Jean, my therapist. Big shout out to Jean.
Shout out Jean, wherever
What's
you
up,
are.
Girl? And she told me, this is exactly the way that like she put it, was that she's like, you need to defrost. I'm like, what? Like a chicken? What do you mean, Jean? She said, and I know exactly the moment. I know what she's talking about, because when I read that email on that computer screen, I felt it.
Right.
I felt like and she said, you haven't given yourself a chance to like live those years like mentally healthy. And I feel so bad saying that, because I was so happy. Like I was living such a great life. I was living my dream. I was hitting the ball,
Yeah.
and and doing everything I wanted to be doing, but then there was this part of me that was just still stuck at a 16-year-old Sam.
Yeah, oh yeah.
And so throughout that, I went to her, you know, every week for a year, and we defrosted me.
Yeah.
And I started to like feel all of a sudden like, oh my God, he wasn't right. I'm thinking this whole time that he's right.
Yeah.
And thinking I have to fight against that and I have to like prove something that I had already proven.
Yeah.
Like, so.
Well, I think too, like, had you not defrosted and not gone to therapy, you would still be hanging on to that. Just
Absolutely.
because it's life.
Yeah.
It doesn't have anything to do with filling the ball or whatever.
Absolutely.
Like, it's just life. You could have gone, you know, your whole life not having dealt with that and not having gotten any closure on that.
And it affected my relationships. After this happened,
Right.
like, after this happened, I had a high school boyfriend for years.
Mm-hmm.
And I said, deuces, I can't, if you want to be close to me,
Right.
sorry, it's not going to happen. And so looking back on it, I realized the behaviors that started to happen where I was like, I don't have any interest in being close to anybody.
Yeah.
And it's not because I think you're going to do the same thing to me that he did to me,
Yeah.
but I think I'm going to end up probably hurting you because I'm hurting. Does that make sense?
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
So, shout out to my high school boyfriend, sorry.
Shout out. You know what? We're all in better places now. I'm sure he's doing great.
Yeah, he's married with a kid.
Oh, see, it all works out for everybody. So let's fast forward to the present. Well, more like your professional career.
Let's.
You know, so with that entire major moment or major couple years in your life, how do you feel like it has affected you now as a professional? Where I feel like now you've made your peace, you've moved past it, and not that you ever forget it, but you've moved past it in a sense.
Yes.
So how do you feel like that has affected you professionally now?
Good question.
Thank you so much.
Excellent, you're doing great.
Go ahead. Thank you.
I mean, it affects me in a way where, number one, nobody can say anything to me that's gonna make me upset.
Right.
Like, it's almost like thinking about the hardest thing that you've been through makes everything else a little bit easier.
Right.
So that part is a positive, where I'm like, oh, like, you don't like how I'm hitting, so I don't play the next game? Okay, I agree.
You're not. I went 0 for 7. You're not wrong.
Yeah, like, I'm gonna pull me, but no. But it does, there's points where I'm like, it'll creep in and be like, maybe you aren't good enough.
Yeah.
And I'm like, dang, Sam, like, that's rude.
Mm-hmm.
But like, I had an experience at Athletes Unlimited. I think it was the last week, and I was picked in the 12th round out of 13 rounds. Mm-hmm. And all of this crept up. And I sat in my room, poor Sammy. Sammy was in the other room, and was just like, all right,
Sammy Fagan.
Sammy Fagan, big shout out. I was sitting in my room, and I was just like I was so emotional because I'm like, maybe I'm not good enough.
Yeah.
Maybe everybody is seeing me the way that this was intended to portray me as, like, maybe I'm not a good teammate. Maybe I don't have, that energy that everybody's looking for. Maybe I'm not that good of a hitter, Maybe they don't feel like they can put me anywhere on the field, and I'm going through all of these things in my head. And I'm like, this isn't just stemming from right now. This is stemming from 2007.
Yeah.
No,
same
it's time.
Exact things.
Now, you know what, Sam? You made a good run. You've been playing ball this long, but they finally figured you out that you're just not that good.
Yeah. Well, I imagine too, like, self-doubt is one thing, but then when it's in a draft and you have everybody else who is involved and you have the 4 captains who are involved, then you're like, okay, it's not just me that thinks that about myself, it's them. They think that about me now.
Yeah.
Because that's a whole different animal.
Yeah, it's a
You know what I mean? Like, that's a whole separate monster of having to deal with that, and just kind of like the mind melt that was the whole AU and the draft and everything, where it's like people only want to look at home runs, they only want to look at this one. They don't realize
it was a lot.
Yeah, it's tough. I mean, it was tough to watch. You're watching people like yourself who are one of the best pros that's been around in the game for so long, get picked in the 12th round, and you're like, oh my God, like it is rough. It is just as rough as it is physically.
Yeah.
And having to deal with all that. Plus, then you throw in, oh, by the way, we're in the middle of COVID. Oh, by the way, you're supposed to stay in your room. You know, there's like all these other things where it's like, oh my goodness, I'm just sitting in a dark corner dealing with this.
Yeah.
And it's tough.
Yeah, and that's how I do deal with it. Chitty calls it my Sam world. I have to go into it in order to get out of it. Like, I have to sit there. I can't talk. I have to be just like in it, and then sit there for as long as it takes, and then I'll go out and be like, what's up, dudes?
Yeah.
You know, and make a joke.
Yeah.
And that's, I think, something that's hard for me to deal with, because I love being the funny person. I don't want to be anybody else.
Yeah.
I want to be the funny. I hate this right now. Like, I don't want to talk like this about anything ever.
Arm twisting to do this episode.
Yeah,
right?
can you see, like, I'm very But
this morning I was like, hey, do you still want to shoot today? And she's like, let's just get it done. Like, let's just get it out the way, because she was like dreading it so much.
like, okay, yeah, my neck kind of hurts from being tense, but like, I want to be the funny person, but sometimes that's like where the kind of insecurities come from, is like, maybe people just see me as a laugh and they don't take me seriously as a softball player, and people think because I don't take anything seriously that I don't take everything seriously.
Right.
And I take my job and my position of being where I am and being a pro softball player and being this and being that so seriously. It's like the greatest honor of my life,
Yeah.
you know? So the draft where I got picked 12, it like you said, it's not just who's picking or that, you know, somebody's picking teams. It's that teams are getting together and they're talking about who they want. And I'm like, I wonder if my name got brought up in any of those conversations, and they're like, nah. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Which, if I got picked dead last every single week, I am on a team, I am playing pro,
Right.
I am hyped as hell to be there, right? But that part of me where I'm like, you're not good enough, and they finally figured it out, you know, good luck.
Yeah.
That part's hard, and that part I know comes from what happened here. So I think that's ultimately why I wanted to like share this, is because that was 13 years ago.
Oh my god.
Like,
That's so long.
13 years ago, and I struggle with it sometimes.
Yeah.
And I don't think coaches or parents understand that this happens. I'm not alone.
Yeah.
I'm
No.
I'm in no way, shape, or form.
Especially when you then throw in like social media now.
Yeah.
Like when you throw in all of that, and the fact that you can now be so vocal on like any given platform in any given way.
Yeah.
Much, you know, back then it was just an email. Now it's like, man, it's all over the place, and dealing with that as a kid, and
yeah, no, I'm not envious of going through growing up right now. And I just, like, there's certain ways to say things, and like my parents always did a really good job with me of like being hard on me when I needed it.
Yeah.
And being reasonable with me and understanding with me, and being like, hey man, did you try your best?
Yeah.
Well, yeah. All right, man. Well, we're gonna get better. You're gonna get better. You're good. And my dad, he still does such a good job with me of like, if I'm feeling down or I'm feeling like, you know, I'm maybe I'm not as good as I think I am. I think I said that to him at AU. I was like, maybe I'm just not as good as I really think I am. And he was like, no.
Yeah.
Like,
Let me go ahead and pull you back into reality real quick.
Yeah. He was like, Sam, you gotta go. You just go out there and do what you know how to do, and that's you, you know. And I mean, I had a good season, and I look back and I'm like, yeah, like I did good, you know. But creeping in, and he's like, Sam, you are like, you gotta probably get to that inside pitch a little bit better. That's the thing, like. It's not like I'm sitting here being like, I'm the greatest hitter that's ever hit the ball.
She's
like,
at the minute we stop recording, she's gonna be like, but really, I'm the greatest hitter ever.
Right. But like, I'm not, you know, but I'm damn good. And that's hard to say.
And we haven't even gotten into, and the reason I'm gonna bring this up is because I consider myself like an outsider in the sense of like, I'm not a player, right? Okay. But So when we were at AU, and I mean, I've shot you for years now, but usually I'm like really close to the athletes. And at AU, I had like this little perch, and then there's the dugout, and at the end of the dugout is where everybody kind of sits. So I get to hear all of the conversations and whatnot that are going on, and we haven't even dipped our toes in the water of, all right, say you're not playing, but what's the kind of teammate or what's the kind of person that you are when you're not on the field? And I get to hear all of those interactions. So yeah, you're not in the starting lineup, but I get to hear everything that you're saying, and you're encouraging, and you're being a good leader. And there's so many, especially at AU, there's like so many rookies and like young girls, and the example that you set and the leadership capabilities that you have is a whole separate friggin' podcast on all that. And you haven't even said anything about that, which is like fascinating to me, because I see you and I just get to watch and observe when others are watching you and others are looking to you, not just the rookies, but the vets as well. Like that just blows my mind too, because that's like, you know, when you want to talk about your character and your personality, like, all right, you could teach someone how to field a ground ball, cool. But you can also teach someone how to be a good person and just show them with your example. And I know you're not going to mention that yourself, because like, you don't want to be like, hey guys, but like, it's so true. And I think that's what makes you're just like the whole kit and caboodle of why you're such an incredible person, and like why you're here, and like why you're doing this kind of stuff. So I'm just gonna throw that out there. And yeah, it's because we're good friends, but also because like I have eyeballs and like I can see this. You know what I mean?
Ears, apparently.
Yeah. Anyway, I don't even know where we were before that. I just, it felt right to say.
No, it's good. I'm so grateful and I'm so lucky. And had this not happened to me, then things would probably look the same, but things would also look different. So I wouldn't change this to save my life, because now I feel like I have a perspective that I can be like, look, the words that you say to people matter. It doesn't matter if you're a coach and a player, it matters. Words to humans matter. And you know, and to the players, where it's like you can literally get through anything.
Right.
Like you can get through absolutely anything. And if softball is not the answer, if you go through something like this and it's just like I need to walk away, then you walk away. You do what's best for you. Like I could not imagine living my life without softball.
Yeah.
So that was my answer.
Yeah.
And then Jean, my therapist, was also a huge answer. So it's, you know, it's everything is individual to the person, but like I do know that there's some parent and kid dynamic where like you have to be a little bit harder on this kid to get it out of him, because you know your kid.
Yeah, of course.
But I've seen so many times where I'm like, this kid is miserable.
Mm-hmm.
Like I don't have children, so I don't know what it's like to know them or not know them, or just want something for them and not understand. Like I don't know, but like I see the way that some coaches talk to kids, and I'm like, she's gonna, number one, hate you.
Mm-hmm.
She's probably gonna resent softball, and she's gonna have really bad feelings about herself. And it's already hard enough.
No one needs that.
It's already hard enough to be a person.
Yeah.
But to add this on top of it, where you're like, you know, I'm turning 17. Who am I really? Like, what am I? Like, I'm gonna leave for college soon. Like, who am I? And then adding this on top of it, where I'm like, maybe I suck.
Not only do I suck on the field apparently, but maybe I'm just a really
like
bad person.
Yeah. where it's funny, because people many people after this said like, Sam, that's not true. Sam, that's not true. Sam, that's not true. And I just believed what he said.
Yeah.
So that part, you know, that's how much weight that carried, is that everybody said something different. Yeah. And I still believe what he said. It took me a long time to be like, wait, he was wrong. He was wrong. He wasn't, none of this that he said was true.
Yeah. Well, that's quite the story. Quite the monumental life event to just casually talk about on a podcast.
Yeah, it took me a while to decide that I should.
Because I think people would handle that very differently from how you did.
I mean, I only got a few tattoos about it, so it's cool. It could be worse.
Oh my god.
It could be worse.
Yeah, that's really good stuff. I'm really glad that you wanted to share that, and I hope that there are coaches or even just teachers or anyone who's in any type of position of power. Hopefully this was just a good tale to hear, and you know, if it shaped you to the person that you are today, not that I'm glad that it happened, but you're a damn fine person.
Thank you. And you know, as twisted as it is, when I first got the offer to go to Japan a few years ago, I told him, and he texted me back and he said, I'm proud of you. And for some reason,
did you cry?
It made me want to. Yeah. I was like, why is this what I needed for the last 10 years?
Right.
What's happening to me?
4 words.
Because I can't hold on to any, like, there's things that I deal with myself, but like, I don't hate him. I don't have, you know, like, I'm so grateful. Like I said, he is a lot of the reason why I play the ball the way that I play ball. Yeah. You know, him and my dad, and then a few of other coaches.
Yeah. Which I feel like is so healthy and mature to just be like, I hope you live a happy life, man.
Like, I don't want him to die. You know what I mean? Like, I just, you know, I would have loved to be able to like invite him to my wedding or invite him to my college graduation. I'm sad for what we missed out on because of what happened.
Yeah, sure.
But if I saw him, I would, hey, you know, like, and I know that we haven't talked the last time, you know, I care about him, and you know, I'm not mad anymore at him. So it just, you know, things are what you make them.
Yeah.
And this sucked, but, you know, but it was good. I'm glad that I have the experience so that I can live the way that I live, and that I can still at the end of the day be like, I'm a happy freaking person. I wasn't, like, there were times where I wasn't happy, but like, I feel like from the day that I came out of my mother, she was short, 20 hours of labor.
Shout out.
Deb. I have been, and I always know that I will be a happy person. And as long as I have the things that I love, you know, and obviously I'm not going to play one day, but like, I'm always going to have softball,
right.
And like, I'm good. I'm good
We're
to go.
All good, man. You're all
Everything's
good.
Man.
Everything's good.
As long as I never have to talk about myself personally again, then we're chilling. Like, this makes me upset.
Yeah, this was really good. I'm glad we did this, and you know, thanks for tuning in to The Unknown Pro featuring Sam Fischer. I'm sure we'll find another episode in a few years where we can talk about you more.
We might.
But yeah, thanks for tuning in, everyone. Sam and I are now going to go on a hike. So
peace.
See you guys next time. Thanks.